Hello, thank you for tuning in. My name is Miles Wagner, and I'm the brand director for the REA. And welcome to the first episode of Venture Views. This is a series where we talk about everything related to entrepreneurship and help inspire students to pursue their own ventures. Today, my first guest is Vanessa Ponce. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to have you as the first guest on this series. Would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to do this. It's my first time doing anything like this, so I'm really excited to get into it. My name is Vanessa. I am in fourth year entrepreneurship. I've been involved in the student group called Enactus Ryerson for about almost 4 years now, or around 3 to 4 years. And I am the project manager of the financial literacy program at Enactus. So it's been great. I've been in it for about 2 years now, that specific project. And now I get to do the project management side of it. So it's been really exciting. And I definitely have more of a passion with financial literacy now. I never thought I would say that. If you told me that when I was like 16, I would be like, what? I just like to spend my money.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, okay, let's budget, let's invest, let's do the damn thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's just about
agree.
it.
I totally agree. I mean, I've never really been into math or anything like that, but I stumbled across a few people on YouTube in the last like year or two, and they've like taught me personal finance to the point where I can talk about it here on a show with you, and I think that's really cool, and it's so important to young people especially to learn these types of things, and to entrepreneurs as well. That's why it relates to both the REA and Enactus who deal with entrepreneurship.
For sure.
And I think like the first subject that we should touch on is like the issue that financial literacy and personal finance isn't taught in any sort of school setting, and you really have to go out of your own way to learn it yourself.
For sure. Actually, the first step in my whole journey was when I got to be a project manager. I read the book Rich Dad Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And it's such a famous book. Like, people probably know it the second I said it, but that book really changed my perspective. Oh, you got it.
I have it.
I swear, like, it's life changing. It's changed
Hmm.
my family's life, my life. And I think the main point of the book that everybody needs to understand is that financial literacy is not taught at any level, at the elementary level, middle school, if you have middle school, high school. And it sucks, but not even in a program like business management, where
Yeah.
you're going to a university to be taught. And there's no like shade with Ryerson at all. I think
Hmm.
if you want to work for a corporation, it's amazing. Like, you're going to learn a lot of things, but in order to learn about like how to budget, how to save, what investments are out there, you're not going to get it at an educational level at all, which is really sad. And no one really knows where to go because you're being taught something and then you're showing your kids the wrong way, and it
Yeah.
just goes over and over and over, and it doesn't end.
It's a
So
vicious
yeah,
cycle.
it is a vicious cycle. And I think that I used to be so oblivious, but then once I read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was
Mm.
like, the just like everything was clicking in my head, and I'm like, okay, so clearly there was like a veil or like a shield in front of my eyes, that I
Yeah.
thought that like you have to work for your money, you have to work, like
Hmm.
blood, sweat, and tears, your hands. And then I realized, wait,
Hmm.
there's passive income too. There's not
Hmm.
active income. And I'm like, what? Like, I get to be paid without physically having to do something. Like, okay, that's really interesting. So even having that little like changing your mentality will do wonders, because then you're like, okay, I don't have to physically be there to work anymore. My money could work for me. And that's all really that we need in schools right now, is just for students to be told, like, your life, you don't have to be employed and depend on a boss or like a corporation to live your life the way that you want to live it.
Hmm. I totally agree. You have to work smart, not hard,
Yeah.
find out how to make your money work for you, and to become financially free, which is what the term people use all the time. And I think that starts it should start at an earlier age. I think throughout, middle school, we should learn budgeting and how to make money, things like that. That's like the early stages. And then when we get into high school and things like that, we can start talking about investing and, things like that. Opening TFSAs at 18, things like that, I think should be really more of a priority in terms of curriculum and education.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as, right now and today, we don't have that. So we need to know that there are resources out there where you can learn that, whether it's books, whether it's online and on YouTube, or whether it's one of these student groups that you and I are both a part of. And we host these workshops and events and things like that where people can learn these skills and hopefully improve their personal finances and get
Yeah.
ahead.
For sure. I actually was talking to my group and it was strange. The first thing that we said when we were like, hey, what are we going to do to tackle this problem of people not wanting to invest? And we thought to ourselves, like, you know what? They have no one's really been motivated from the jump. Like,
Hmm.
since we were little, we were never like intrigued to invest or like save and budget. Cause for most of us, we thought of it as a very daunting task for like the adults to do.
Yeah.
But that's where we have to take it back and say, like, no, 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 it's for everybody. Like, there's no age limit. You don't have to be like 10 years old. You could be 5 years old learning about
Hmm.
like what a dollar is, or like, just opening a child's mind up, because if you have it closed and give so many restrictions, they're going to think they have limited options and they're not
Yeah.
going to go reach for the stars when they don't even think that's possible.
Hmm. I definitely agree. I think a lot of people have a false perception of what or how easy it is to really get started in a lot of these things. And like I'll be talking with my dad at the dinner table about stocks or whatever, and my sisters will both be like, "Shut up! What are you talking about? Like you're so boring, whatever." And it's like you should be listening and learning and trying to educate yourself as well, because it's
Mhm.
not something that the adults do and only saving for retirement when you're older. It's something you should prioritize right now.
For sure. Even when I was a kid, actually, my mom would always talk about real estate, real estate, real estate, like all the
Hmm.
time. And at one point, I was like, can we not talk about real estate anymore? I was like, I don't
Hmm.
want to. And then I gave myself maybe like 2, 3 years later, and now I'm a bit obsessed. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
what is this real estate stuff? And like now I annoy my friends about it.
Hmm.
But it just at the end of the day, it's almost like like planting the seed, and then over a little bit of time, a little bit more, you'll start learning and learning. It's not that daunting. So
Hmm.
yeah, the issue of financial literacy, I think the best way to attack it is motivating people with things like this and saying it's not
Hmm.
that hard. Like if I'm a
Yeah.
22-year-old girl, I'm not sure how old you are.
I'm 20.
Okay, so we're
Hmm.
2022, like very similar age, and we're getting started, and we already feel like things have changed and progressed in our
Hmm.
life. Like this can happen for anybody, especially
Hmm.
people that are around us at Ryerson for sure.
Yeah. Once you take that first step, it's a lot of weight off your shoulders to know that you are getting ahead and making progress towards it. I think that's something that everyone should do just to feel more of a peace of mind, you know?
For sure, yeah. And I think the last thing that I want to say about this is that like I think that no one should blame themselves right now. It's not a there's no point of pointing fingers like mom you didn't teach me, or like oh the school board didn't teach me blah blah blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
it's time to like drop the attitude almost and be like, you know what? I don't know financial literacy. How am I gonna know it? How am I
Hmm.
gonna learn it? Sorry. And just have that approach, because if you're kind of like upset that you're late and you're upset that like oh I was never taught this, then you're
Yeah.
not really going to go anywhere. But if you just say like okay drop it, we don't know it, how do we know it?
Hmm.
How do we get to this?
Start today. Yeah.
Start, yeah, start right now. Like that's
I
the best thing.
totally agree. And what you were saying earlier about oh, like how we need to build awareness for this type of thing. And I think that's the most important thing, is to make it more of a conversation that people have, normalize talking about money and things like that, because that's how we get the information out there. And I don't think that changes within the educational system and things like that are going to happen without awareness and us talking about it and us pushing for it. So I think that's super
Yeah.
important.
Also just making it cool. I feel like making
Yeah.
it being like, you know what, if you talk about investments, you are cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Miles, at the dinner table, let's talk about stocks because that's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, I think just making it more of a space to be like not ashamed of, and not
Mhm.
like, oh, like don't talk about money at the table. Like
Yeah.
No, like we can talk about this. It's an open discussion. It's a positive, happy, cool
Hmm.
thing to talk about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's super important.
Hmm.
And next, we can talk about, how investments are important to reaching your financial goals. So I know a lot of people, they dream of owning a house one day. They want to have that down payment, or they want to retire at an earlier age than 65 or 70, whenever the average is. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, the importance of investments.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, my mom, like, really, I love her so much. She basically taught me a lot about this specific topic in the summer. And before even thinking of financial goals for me, I thought financial goals is like, oh, be a billionaire, like, oh, be a
Hmm.
millionaire, millionaire, billionaire, all these titles. But then she took a step back and she's like, no, no, your financial goals is basically like what you want in terms of like how long could you go without working to just survive off the money you have, right? And then I was thinking and thinking, and I'm like, okay, so like let's say for example, like I stopped working today, like how much would I need for the rest of my life to have everything I dreamed of? If
Hmm.
that's like one vacation, a decent like bungalow house, maybe like a couple, like maybe $50,000 for my kids one day when they go to school. Like how much is that
Hmm.
gonna cost? And I think it was only like maybe like $2 million until I was
Hmm.
like 80 or something like that, like something ridiculous. And so then I realized I'm like, wait, if my financial goals is a couple $1 million, and you're telling me that with compound interest, if I invest, I'll get there when I'm 30, then that means when I'm 30, I'll be retired. I'm
Hmm.
like, and then she was like, yeah. And I remember like that look in my eyes. I was like, so wait, you're telling me that if I just save my money for a couple years, put them in investments that are with high compound interest, I'm good? Like, I'm like, I thought I had to work for my whole life. Like, I thought that, and she was like, no, like, no, that's not how it works. And so then I asked her, I was like, why don't people know this? And she's like, well, people don't ask rich people how they get rich. They just think that they have like talents or like they're a movie star or like they
Luck.
got some new tech gadget. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a billionaire to meet your financial goals. You just have to like write your what you want. Like for example, if I know a lot of my friends, they love going on vacations, and even
Hmm.
myself, I love going on vacations. But what if someone doesn't really care for vacations? Your financial goals will be much less, and you probably will be able to attain them much earlier.
Yeah.
So I think that, for example, like it's just so important to know about investments because where the point where you want to be at, you will get there with investments. And I don't deny that there are risky investments out there. I mean, I've invested myself, but I've only been involved for less than a year now, so I don't even know the whole
Hmm.
complete story. But
Yeah.
the confidence and like the belief that I have in this is like growing every single day more and more and more. And the reason why I want to do things like this is because like if my life is changing so drastically, like I hope that if somebody sees this, they take it upon themselves to go on YouTube when they're like working out or cooking and watching things like every single day. Or
Hmm.
like for example, going to events like the REA or Enactus or like Inspire or even Project Bits, my the program that I'm working on, because
Hmm.
it really is important. Like if you want to work and also pay like paycheck to paycheck, maybe that's something that you want to do, which is fine too.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to like if you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck, and if you don't want to work with your hands or like work until you're 60 years old, then
Hmm.
maybe you should consider like making like your part-time job, like thinking about investments and which ones that are best for you.
Yeah. I definitely
Yeah.
agree. And I think the best part about this is that as soon as you get started and start learning these things, just like compound interest, it gets bigger over time. So does your interest and how much you want to learn more. It builds. You get addicted to it. It becomes your lifestyle. It changes the way you view life. And I think that's the most important thing that we should tell people today is that as soon as you get started, your entire view on all of this is going to change for the better and you're going to feel great.
Yeah, honestly, I think that like I was really insecure learning about these things because again, like I was like, oh my God, I took a financial literacy test and it says I know 50% of this stuff when I first
Mhm.
started off.
Yeah.
And then I took another one a couple months later and I'm like, oh, I'm 67%. The next
Mhm.
month later, 70%. So even though it may seem like really, really hard, it definitely week by week you see the progress. And it was kind of weird, like this might be too much information, but I love like fitness and working out, and I definitely have like goals for myself every single month. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
so like this month I want to gain 5 pounds for muscle. This one I want to lose, like
Mhm.
all these things. And so my mom told me in a very similar way. She's like, money and working out are the same things. Every single calorie counts, every single gym session counts, every single investment counts, and it's okay if like let's say you start off with like say if someone's like really big, right? If you
Mhm.
start off that way, you can be fit by the end of the year, or you can be healthier by like 2 weeks as opposed to the 2 weeks prior, right?
Mhm.
So it's all about those little incremental steps. Like every inch counts. And even if you're at the beginning, even if you're starting off, this is a really exciting time for you. Like
Mhm.
even for me, like in my fitness journey, the beginning was exciting. Like you're trying new things, you're like trying to
Mhm.
figure out what works for you. So I think like if anyone listening right now is scared about investments, don't be scared. Just go out and do it exactly like how you work out. Like you just get up and you do a squat.
Yeah.
That's it. You
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 have to
go
start.
online and you go and you read. That's it.
Mhm. I totally agree. I think that's so important.
And start with Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's the
Yeah.
best book.
Mhm.
But I want to like where is it? Oh, I have it right there.
Yeah, and if you don't want to read a book, if reading's not your thing, there's tons of YouTube channels out there, or you can attend one of our events here that we do every so often. I think it's super important, um,
100%.
especially if your parents don't necessarily know what's going on either, or your friends, you don't have anyone that you can really talk to about this. It's best to start on your own and become that person that people can go to talk about these things. I think that's
Yeah.
super important as well.
Also, be in a room with somebody that wants to talk about these things
Hmm.
because I've definitely had to remove myself from a few like either coworkers or friends or classmates because
Hmm.
this is what I want to talk about, and I realize that some people don't want to talk about it. It's not their cup of tea and they wish to, they don't wish to talk about it. So in my life, I decided to, spend time with people that want to, because it really is not their fault. It's not my fault. It's no one's fault. It's just surround yourself with people that have like-minded interests like you,
Yeah.
and definitely bring something to the table. I would say, like,
Hmm.
don't just come, tell things that ask for their advice.
Hmm.
Build that relationship with people that enjoy the same things as you.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to start, and it's crucial at this point, especially with, how hard things are for our generation compared to previous ones, how wages don't really match up with the price of homes today, and how inflation is beating out income and things like that. Like investing is 100% necessary in order to do pretty much anything. If you want to afford a house in Toronto, there's no way you're going to do that by saving. Like you can't save however much money, like you'll never get there. It just won't happen. So,
No, no, you would have to work for like 200 years, like,
yeah.
and that's not happening.
No, not at all.
Except I'm not sure if you've seen, there's like this thing in the Middle East, they like
Yeah.
backtrack aging. Have you seen that?
Oh, I think I heard something about that
I
recently.
watch too much TikTok. It's
Yeah, I didn't look into it though because I didn't believe it right away.
honestly, I kind of believed it because I was
Mhm.
like, oxygen? I don't know. We're getting off topic, but
We
if
can
you
talk about
had
that after.
200 years, then you can
Yeah,
save for your whole life, but
exactly.
not now.
Hmm. I also wanted to touch on how important this is to entrepreneurs because I know that the REA, we have a lot of students who are in that program, the entrepreneurship major, and they also want to pursue their own entrepreneurial ventures or just want to become more of a leader, an entrepreneur in a way. So when you're thinking about starting in a company or anything like that, when you want to invest in the company and start it, you obviously don't need a lot of money in the beginning, depending on how much you want to do. But if you wanted to scale that up, you would have to build up some sort of down payment, or not a down payment, but like a sum of money that you can pull from and make investments with. So I think investing and knowing your budgeting and knowing things like that is also super, super important, especially to those people, and to know how to manage your money. Because if you're going to run a business, you need it to be profitable, and you need to know when to, spend and when to save and where to cut costs and things like that. So I think if you're considering a lifestyle, or not a lifestyle, but a career in entrepreneurship, you definitely need to take this into account and take this seriously, because it's a lot of what goes into your day to day when you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that my professor's name is Andre Lepleu. I'm not sure if you know him, but he's
I
an
don't.
amazing Ryerson teacher. And
Hmm.
I had a course about innovation, and he basically said like a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand that you're not an innovator. Like you're an entrepreneur, which is like you're
Hmm.
seizing an opportunity,
Hmm.
and that opportunity is usually in regards of money. So you're not inventing really a product. You should be really connect. You should connect with the engineers. You should connect with like the arts majors, things like that. That they
Hmm.
already have that idea, that innovation, and you would be there to stabilize the business as a whole.
Hmm.
And that makes the most sense because, and I feel like that's why 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs do fail in the first 5 years, because it's
Hmm.
like you think it's about the innovation. If you have the best product and the best service, like
Hmm.
this is what's going to make you. But it's like no, no, no. You need to know your assets. You need to know your liabilities. What dividends are you giving out? What's the
Yeah.
equity? What's your return on investments? Where's your cash flow statements? Like you need to know all this stuff. Like this is what you're
Hmm.
built to do. You're not built to make this product or service. This is the main part of it, is learning
Yeah.
about business. So the fact that like entrepreneurs focus too much on the innovation itself just shows that like your business will most likely fail. That's really harsh to say, but it's true. If you don't know financial literacy, then how are you going to pay your employees? How are you going to stay afloat in a business? How is anybody going to trust that your product is good when your whole company is like going down in the dump, you know?
Hmm.
So I think that like even for myself, I would be lying if I said I felt 100% on board with my financial literacy as an entrepreneur. But
Yeah.
again, I'm trying every single day to learn. Like
Hmm.
that's all I can really do. I'm 22. It's pretty young. I think that in 10 years I'll be way more understand like I have a better understanding of financial literacy in an entrepreneurship lens.
Hmm.
But it just requires some hard work and just consistency, I feel like, because no entrepreneur is going to be perfect, but financial literacy at the top of your like importance list, your business is gonna fail. Like
Yeah.
say goodbye to the business, it's gone. Like it's not.
Might as well not even try.
Yeah, like and honestly, one thing that I really admired about someone, I forgot what business it was, but she was like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I don't know financial literacy," and I was like, "So what are you gonna do?" And she's like, "I hired someone."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Good for you." I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know. I'm like, you know that you have a weakness. You know that you're the innovator, and you don't know
Hmm.
financial literacy, so you brought someone in. I'm like, good, like, good job. Like
Exactly.
that's even a good step ahead, because it's like, you know that you're not all that and more. Get
Hmm.
somebody to help you.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think that's so important. And I think if you don't know what you're doing and you're in a business setting, that to get an expert, an accountant, a financial manager, I think that's something you must do, because you don't want to end up in debt and crushing debt. Like that would be the worst case scenario. And especially when you do it for your dream, your passion, and then it doesn't work out, like that's really going to hurt your soul, I think.
Yeah. Also, I was my father is an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
and it's really crazy the experience that I've had with quarantine, like living back home, coming back home from school, because I remember all these years my father worked so hard, and such a great guy, does amazing work. He's a contractor.
Hmm.
And I realize like he does make a lot of money. Like I hear like these jobs make, like 50,000, this, like so many, like these huge numbers. And
Mhm.
then over the quarantine break, he was talking to me about like finance and things like that. And he was like, this is the first time in my whole business that now I'm actually making way more money because I'm saving more of the money that I earn.
Yeah.
I'm cutting costs in different sections. I have employees doing this, that, and the other,
Mhm.
and now I have a better way of managing it. And I didn't have that before because I never knew what was really happening in my finances. So it kind of made me think back to this video I saw on YouTube, and it was like sometimes entrepreneurs just make a job for themselves. They don't necessarily become this grand, like,
Mhm.
person that has so much money because, like at the end of the day, like it's just very hard. So yeah, it's definitely, it's super important for an entrepreneur to know their financial literacy, or else again, you're making a job for yourself. You're not um, becoming an entrepreneur, really.
Yeah.
You're just another employee.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. And lastly, I think we should talk about how people can start today on their financial journey through their small changes that they can make in their life. I would say first, starting a budget, learning how to manage your money is probably the most important thing first off. Be able to recognize where you're spending too much and find a space where you can save, hopefully monthly on a consistent basis, and learn to just value the money that you get to keep versus the money that you're throwing out the window on things like partying, you know?
100%.
Mm.
I think that to motivate people, I think the only way that I could really explain this is how I did it, and how I motivated myself to start my financial journey. And that was with, sorry, I just like looked at it too. I have a almost like a journal, like a
Hmm.
big journal. And I wrote down my dreams. Like I wrote down everything that I wanted. Like I want to be able to go and have a nice house in like
Hmm.
the summer and also have a house in Toronto. I want to be able to like adopt kids and have like a bunch of kids. I want to
Hmm.
like travel the world. I want to like be invited to like grand events. Like this is what I want,
Hmm.
right? And I
Yeah.
wrote it down in a journal, and I told myself, okay, so like how much is this going to cost? How much is that going to cost? If I want this, how much
Yeah.
is this? This is, and once you write down your goals and what you want, then you can start to figure out like, okay, so how am I going to get that? Let's say the price is like, at the end of my life, I want $10 million, just throwing a
Hmm.
number.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you have that, how do you save, invest, and budget for that? And
Yeah.
and then also like who can I talk to that can get me there? And I
Hmm.
think that really motivated me because it was what I wanted. It wasn't what my parents wanted. It wasn't what my sister, like nobody else wanted this for me.
Hmm.
And I think that's where the motivation comes from. And honestly, you know what's crazy? One of my friends, she really does not want to travel. She
Hmm.
wants to have a little house, which is great too. Like it doesn't even matter like what your goals are at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It can be anything. It really could be. If you want to be like anything in the world, literally, all you have to do is
Hmm.
write it down and figure out how you can get it. And again, find
Hmm.
a mentor or a support system that will help you get it.
Hmm.
And obviously, if you live in Canada and you're over 18, or even if you're under 18, think about getting a TFSA and save for
Hmm.
it, you
Yeah.
know? And Google is your friend. So,
Google is your friend. Yeah, the TFSA is the number one thing like you have to do. I don't think you can do it until you're 18.
yeah, you have to
Am
wait
I
till you're
wrong?
18.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to
you
wait.
gotta be
But
18.
yeah, if you are 18, you have to start like thinking about how you're going to max that out every single year. That's like the most important thing. That should be the first thing on your mind is maxing that out every year because the earlier that you start, the more it's going to snowball. And the years between like 18 to 25 are the most important years for your money building and to start that snowball effect of compounding interest.
Just a thing of like motivation. I think that like for myself, I always thought that I would be very similar to my parents. Like again, everything revolves around your inner circle. I
Yes.
feel like, and I always thought that like that was my limit, like that was the cap of where I could be,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just motivating from even hearing from my parents of like you can do better. Like almost like your grandmother came here for a better life. We had a better life. You could have an even greater life and help
Mm-hmm.
more people, and that's also the key, is like helping people. Like the only reason to like live and be motivated is that on the way you're going to help someone suffer less.
Hmm.
So I think that by just getting a journal and having like some of your achievements down or like what you aspire to do will
Hmm.
motivate you like 10 times over anything else. Because
Yeah.
and honestly, like one thing that I would definitely recommend to people is tell your tell people your goals, but don't tell everybody your goals. Like
Yes.
be a little bit selective, because I
Hmm.
think that some people will be, I'm not sure if you know that malocchio, what malocchio is. I grew up in an Italian
No,
neighborhood,
I
but
don't.
malocchio is like the evil eye.
Okay.
And apparently like if you say it to too many people, like people would just give you a bad energy.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I believe in energy.
Yeah.
That's what I believe in. So
I agree.
just, protect yourself and say it to the people that you know have a good heart for
Hmm.
you and like want good things for you,
Yeah.
and truly believe it. Like in your heart, believe that you are worthy of meeting your financial goals, and budget,
Yeah.
invest, learn about your taxes, and save,
Hmm.
and you'll
We
be
only
good.
have one life, you gotta reach all those goals that you wanted to.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
Life's short.
So short. So yeah, obviously what we talked about today is just kind of a general overview of everything that is important and that you should take the time to educate yourself on a lot of these things. So I recommend checking out Project Bits. They have a lot of really cool events going on that revolve around financial literacy and teaching people how to manage their money. The REA also has some events in collaboration with Penny Drops called Conquer. I believe the next one is on January 15th or 14th. So you should definitely look into checking both of those out. And in the meantime, to prepare yourself before the next event, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or go online, look at YouTubers, and try and just get your first step today, learn something new, and hopefully continue that journey throughout.
Yeah, don't be scared. You will definitely meet your dreams.
Hmm.
Thing will work out. Just try. Just try. Put an
Mm,
effort into this and
I
you'll
agree.
get.
Is there anything you want to say to everybody about your project or about what you have going on?
Yeah, so right now, Project Bits is focused on teaching not only basic fundamentals of financial literacy, but investments like real estate, so buying a property, different strategies to do that. The private market, it's a bit similar to the stock market, it's just not publicly traded. So we want to talk about cryptocurrency, maybe like the benefits, the pros and cons kind of
Hmm.
thing, and just all sorts of advanced investments along with just the basics. So yeah, definitely check us out. And we're super excited to see you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I think this is an awesome first episode of Venture Views. And hopefully, maybe we'll have you on in a future episode again.
Yeah, thanks for having a little chat with me, Miles.
Of
So cool.
course, anytime. It was so nice to meet you. You're amazing.
You too.